And hello, everyone. Welcome to Raise2Launch, podcast episode number 4, I do believe. I'm here as always with Tomas Holcher. We're here talking about today, right? Raise2Launch, right in the frickin' name, how to raise funds. And I think between you and I was thinking about as I was prepping for this, we've got more than 20 years, 40 years, more than 40 years of experience in fundraising. And I think if we try real hard, and we've tried moderately hard, we can distill this down into half an hour or so of understanding about fundraising, our approaches to fundraising, how you may or may not think about it. I think one thing to lead out with, I mentioned this fact last week on LinkedIn. Everyone, of course, in our space thinks about venture capital as the way to raise money, but fewer than 1.5% of all new businesses launched that are successful raise VC funding. 98.5% of funds raised for successful businesses is in non-VC backed manners. So I think it's worth talking about. And let's touch first on, because of course anybody who's watching this will think about the VC route as a way to go. Let's touch on that, but also talk about some of the other ways you can raise funds, get your business its first $20, $50, $100,000 to help you launch. Because that's what we're all about, is talking about how to raise your funds to launch your business. So let's talk about right, the 800-pound gorilla, or oddly, not the 800-pound gorilla, just when we think about VC funding. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What's your approach to it? That's you, Thomas. Oh, someone's internet dropped. Either yours did or mine did. I don't know whose. All right. I'm going to act as if my connection still remains active. So, absent Thomas, let me get into it. There are upsides and downsides to raising capital through VCs. One of the upsides, one of the reasons I like venture capital, for the reason I like it, you never see a story covered by the media on, here's somebody who's quietly built a profitable business that's making them a couple $1 million a year without having raised money, right? Like, that's not what makes headlines. What makes headlines is this person raised X million, Y million, whatever millions of dollars. And if you want to get some PR for a variety of reasons, right, to improve your visibility with potential clients, if you've got 20 million in the bank, you're a much safer partner to work with, because people go, oh, I'm sure you'll be around in a couple of years. It's easier to recruit. People go, oh, this job has got some security. It's easier to get bigger logos behind you because they're not willing to take a gamble on a little tiny company nobody's heard of, but they are willing to take a gamble on somebody who's raised a big check. So there's some clout that shows up when you raise VC funds, which is otherwise absent. You also do theoretically get access to the network of a venture capitalist when they give you money. In practice, I have found most VCs are pretty bad about that. And that they say, oh, sure, look, we have a tremendous network of people who will be able to help you out. And in practice, because they have 50 or 100 companies they've got in their portfolio, they don't have time to be much use to you. There are, and we will talk in a future episode about ways to get your VCs to make their network more useful to you. There's a couple of tricks you can have to really improve the likelihood that a VC's network will be valuable to you. But most cases, what you see there is not going to be what they promise, won't necessarily always be matched by performance. Some VCs are real good about this. I don't wish to denigrate anybody who's a VC might be listening, but it is also, you should expect that mostly what you're getting is money and maybe some industry expertise. You, of course, get cash up front. Other ways you have to go get money may not give you all the cash in one giant lump sum. The need to get, without performance, without any project milestone, with nothing, just, hey, we believe in you, here's a check, can be really handy. And because VC will frequently write bigger checks than other means will, it gives you a reservoir of money for really fast growth. If you know, for example, if I spend $100, I'll make $1,000, but it takes me 3 years. And that first year I spent $100 and I made 50. The second year I made 450, and the third year I made 500, whatever, right? Your capitalization is super important. And a bank may not be willing to load you millions of dollars if your time to pay off user acquisition is a long time. But a VC, if they see and believe in you, will give you that chunk. Now, downside, one, when you're on the VC hype train, you get on board this rocket ship and you can't really get off. Some startups have done so successfully, but usually you take VC money and they have expectation. You will grow and you will grow and you will grow until you either make it big, and by big they mean hundreds of millions of dollars, or you shut down. A VC isn't usually very happy with a business that reliably makes $3 or $5 million a year. That's not how their portfolio was built. So if you're looking like you're going to stay there, they're going to push you to either grow until you flame out or until you reach that next level of success. You've got this commitment when you start the VC train, you've got 5 to 7 years of always raising money on your plate. And as you raise pre-seed, angel round, pre-seed round, seed round, A round, B round, C round, you're giving away more and more ownership in your company. You're giving away more and more control. And eventually, because the way all these VCs work is they funnel businesses into the same model, you will end up being the same as everybody else. Tomas is rejoining shortly. You'll be the same as everybody else. Your business model, your positioning, your everything, they will end up making you like everybody else, because the win is either you get acquired by a big player, you go public, or you have some sort of capital event where you're merging and shares are being distributed, money being exchanged. So anything that makes your company unique and distinct and different will tend to be dissolved in all of that. So the VC path, which is a pretty well-known path, has the upsides and the downsides. And honestly, for most mentors I speak to, most people who I am trying to help figure out their beginning go-to-market process, VC path isn't always a great fit. I'd estimate that more than half of the companies I'm talking to are building something interesting. Maybe it's a marketplace, maybe it's a service business, maybe it's even a SaaS business, but not a big SaaS business. If you can make a really profitable $3, $5, $10 million a year business that you will enjoy, that'll make you money, that'll transform your life, and you have other means to raise those funds, maybe try checking those out too. And broadly, there are 3 sections you can group these funds into. When Tomas is available to come back in, I'm sure we'll have some stuff to contribute to, but I can speak to the ones that I know. One of them is grants and loans. Another is moving with a partner, basically a business execution partner. And then there is finally a different way to raise funds as kind of a crowdfund. And those 3, and there are, of course, many, many others and subcategories thereof. There's also a whole private equity, angel round, whatever, friend and family round. There are ways to raise money that isn't straight venture capital. So let's think about, first up, what you have with terms of grants and loans, and whether it's NGO related or governmental related. There are a number of founders who, 1, are underrepresented, or 2, just happen to come from an economy where they are deliberately trying to foster growth of startups. Crowdtamers is a US-based corporation, although I live in Montreal, Canada. And in Quebec, there are a number of different opportunities available for some funding. I see Tomas has maybe rejoined us. Yes, here we go. Let me bring Tomas back into the call. There we are. Hey, dude.
Sorry, apologize. That was a bigger internet problem than I expected. But being a good digital nomad, I do have cell phone hotspot. And we joke about it that the internet in Silicon Valley is the most unstable. Network upgrade on upgrade on upgrade is very different than putting an internet into to a greenfield place where you actually can put fiber optics right away or something like that. So
I agree. Internet in Poland
with
was
my internet
remarkably
cable.
better than internet in most of the US. When I was living overseas, I was like, man, internet is fast and cheap. And then in the United States, it is slow and expensive. So I feel you.
And very
Anyway,
spotty. So somebody chewed my internet cable, probably. But I'm back, and I apologize if somebody was
no worries.
waiting for our input and you had to go on alone. But
So I
thank
went through and discussed basically VC funding, upsides and downsides, and I'm just getting into talking about government grants, loan, and what it is, how you might apply for them, why you might wish to apply for them. So I'll throw that to you because you have more experience there than I do anyway. Talk to me about what you might want to see, whether you are an underrepresented founder or somebody in a new and developing economy. Like, what options might there be available for you to get your startup funded?
Yeah, so thank you for handing it over. And there's many other options out there. So as you said, quickly just to wait on that. A lot of people assume that VC is the only way to go because that's what they hear. And then there's a lot of meetings, and they are only looking for the unicorns. So the odds that your startup is look like a unicorn from their point of view is small. So I've seen many good startups that ended up getting funding but get rejected from VCs. So the alternative funding methods are the most common ones to get money. And often I recommend the following steps: like look around in the ecosystem where you are. So that's step one. Look around in the ecosystem where you want to scale. So where your next target market is. Is that maybe another country in Europe? Is that maybe another continent like US? And looking at those ecosystems um, is giving you the funding alternative. There are a lot of local funds that are given to you when you establish a legal entity. So in East Europe, for example, in Poland, there's 80,000 euro non-refundable money if you start your startup there. That's like really good. Help with marketing, maybe do an MVP. And a fun fact, people don't know about it too much. So only the local ecosystem aware of this. Same thing for I think in Hong Kong they have a similar $100,000 non-refundable incentive. So in order to get these, you need a local connection, get it going. But I remember I was in Munich talking with a circle of startup owners. Nobody heard about it. So I was joking that do I have to come from San Francisco to Munich to talk about what's going on in next door, Poland? So that's literally despite internet and connections, and we think we are in a connected world. If you don't know what to look for in the internet, this information may not get to you. So I emphasize on finding a local partner where you're thinking to establish your legal entity or talk with entrepreneurs who knows these places to start. So if you get a non-refundable initial money right out of the gate where you don't have to give equity, that's the best, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
A grant or some type of zero interest loan, any of those you can secure, go nuts for. Another really good one to get is a letter of credit or a line of credit, because if you don't use it, you don't pay anything on it. So it's just there available until you decide you want it, which is also excellent to basically say at any time in the future, I can get 150K, but I can just hold on this until I need it. That can be a real lifeline.
But it's true if you have a non-refundable money, that's even better than a loan because the loan you need to return at some point. And
It
then of
is.
course, the second best money if you can get revenue from clients is also really good. But I have a little bit of advice there because the moment you have one client, you end up listening to that client more than the rest of the market, and you maybe don't have your best target, ideal target client at first.
Yeah.
So I've seen some startups ended up leaning towards their first client, even though their bigger clientele is out there. So you gotta kind of like not go too deep with your first client and just do all the new features according to them, and not just so that could be a distraction as well to your staying focused towards your market.
That is
So
actually a good point, and one that I hadn't considered mentioning as like the overview here. At Unito, at other companies I've worked at in the past, getting a deposit from larger clients on features that they've asked you to make that are still in your roadmap, but maybe not the ones you're going to make next, is a great way to say, look, I need 30K to get this feature made. Pay me. I will make that feature first. And you just got, you raised enough funds to hire an engineer for 3 months or half a year and use that to write your next feature. So that can also be a really good way to prove market pain and get advance money ahead of actual work delivery. So government grants in Quebec, there are a whole bunch. I know in Singapore, where I've got a decent little network, there are a whole bunch. I think knowing in your local network, right, go to some events for startups in your city, in your state, in your country, wherever you may be. Ask around. I have found, and again, Quebec might be different than most places, because the bankers know that you can get this money if you are the right type of startup. They will frequently show up at startup events and just say, hey, I'll get your account set up so you can apply for these grants. Because the bank is, of course, super happy to take $100,000 of the government's money and hold it, which, they just got this money as assets to then borrow against with no risk of any kind. That's a pretty good model for them, too. So government grants, looking at all that, it's a good way to find some funding chances. Upsides, I think, are frequently it's 0% interest, or not even, it's flat out grant, no need to pay the money back. It's usually non-dilutive. You don't have to give equity away. The government generally doesn't want equity. What they want is, if your business succeeds, you will put more jobs into the local economy. And if your business succeeds, they will tax you more. So they have the advantage of, they don't need to get interest back from you to make money from your business if they give you a loan. But I think some of the downsides, one is the paperwork is pretty intense for any government NGO grant. The wait can be baffling. I've got 1 or 2 clients I've had who were waiting 3-5 months after the government said the deadline for replies were on funds before they heard a yes or a no. One of the downsides of government work is, because there's, in your, whatever your local government is, there is no competition by default. There's also no place you can go where the competitor is better. So in government work, you get a level of service, and they have no incentive to make it better necessarily. Of course, individual humans may wish to do better because that is their desire, but organizationally, there's no drive for improvement. Another good way to grow is to find somebody in a new country or a new market that you don't know very well, who can then either say, I will pay you for exclusive rights, right? A partnership in this area, distribution partnership, or just say, you're going to launch in this area and make money for me, set up an entity in this area, which might be eligible for government grants and these sorts of things, and give you a means to grow and scale locally. I bring this up because Raise2Launch kind of does that with clients, right? And it's something I think is worth talking about. We have recently we're not really ready to announce fully all the details yet, but Raise2Launch, right, it's a consortium of different agency owners. Tomas is there, I'm there, some other folks are there as well. Kim, she's listening, hi Kim. And what we do is we solve from the beginning to the end of, I want to launch in a new geo, well, in North America. I'm not going to launch in, I don't know, Poland, despite having spent many years there. Companies launch in North America. And when they're looking to launch in North America, they need certain legal structures set up. They need, if there's potential funding coming in, other options that show up. Having somebody to help you with that can be tremendously valuable. Talk a bit about, for our European client who we're helping make a nexus in the US, what are we doing? Why is this something useful for that European startup and other ones too?
Yeah, I think.
Oh my goodness.
We've got. So anyway, I'm here.
Everyone's internet's dropping.
Maybe we got. But can you hear me? Thank you for
Today is a cursed day for a stream.
internet.
Right. I think I'm still broadcasting, so I
Yeah,
will continue talking.
hopefully. The moment
So,
you start talking about money, the internet is start.
particularly because the U.S. represents kind of a monolithic market. North America includes Canada, where they all speak English, except, of course, Quebec, where I live. And even in Mexico, where the economy is definitely weaker and Spanish is the preferred language, English goes pretty far there, too. So in North America, you get access to a giant market, but you need an entity for a number of reasons. Being able to set up a shipping hub, being able to set up a corporate income hub. Most parts of the world have higher taxes than many parts of the US. Being able to set up an operations base and a profit center there so that your corporate income tax is based off of whatever that nexus is instead of your local nexus as you're building and growing and scaling is a big thing. I've done some work with Hypercroissance Quebec, which works a lot with French startups, like actual French startups. Being able to say, hey, there's a corporate nexus, there's a profit center, this is where you're basing your business out of in Quebec or out of North America, can represent a tremendous tax savings for companies in France where taxes are quite high. But you need somebody who knows the market.
Yeah.
And so finding somebody like, for example, the Raise2Launch crew can get you access to domain expertise in financial setup, legal setup, how to go to market, figure out how to sell in this audience, and finally how to hire, recruit, and be compliant with all of the local regulations. So when you are setting this up in your, whatever your local nexus is, that also unlocks the capacity for different types of funding. A decent example of that would be if you are, I'm just checking to see if Tomas is coming back. He is offline.
Well, I'm here. Is that?
Right.
Can you not hear me? Actually,
Tomas's cell phone is out too. It's just you and me today. I'm going to kick Tomas out of the call. There we go. So the as you are scaling up, some of the upsides here, because somebody knows the local practices, they can set up the right legal situation for you. You can say, hey, my profit center's over there, but all the IP is licensed to my main headquarters in Europe. Knowing somebody who can structure this legally correctly is key. Also, once you set up a local office, if you give it some of the IP, if you give it some hiring, if you do some of those things for it, you are able to then apply for government grants, for NGO grants, and those sort of things in the underrepresented where you may be, or just being able to say, hey, this is a new cool business idea. Welcome back again.
yeah. Thank you.
Some of the a local partner. Well, actually, since you're here, Tomas, I went through some of the upsides if you're hiring a local expert like Raise2Launch in a local market, which includes legal compliance, setting up corporate and tax structures. They are going to be advantageous for both the local and the overseas branch of your business. Doing a better job launching into a market and helping make sure you hire and do things that are compliant with local regulations for your staffing. What else do you
Great.
think is an upside for finding a local partner when you want to launch in a monolithic market like North America?
Yeah. So the other angles, and maybe I give a little bit of a business angle on this, is you're looking for funding, and maybe even you have a little bit of a profit already, or a little bit of revenue. Sorry, not profit, a little bit of revenue. That's when fundraising gets easier. So every fundraising gets easier once you have a little bit of revenue. So we talked about on the business side steps of how you get some funding. We didn't mention, but you can maybe get some money in incubators at the end of the incubator program where it's non equity related. So you have some money to get your money to a company started. It's better this way instead of try to do a big fundraising. Just baby steps. First step, get some money, get your product out there, get some revenue, maybe bootstrap it. So now we talk about, and thanks Trevor for talking while I was having internet issues about the legalities, but the business side of it is what makes sense here. The moment you have some revenue and you try to scale, don't use your European money to try to break into an American market, which is big. Try to create a separate fundraising campaign so that you're using American income, money, American funds to raise in US, that you actually end up launching your product and launching your new big territory, because it's just easier to do it that way. And that's what we're helping a lot of European startups with. because it just makes business sense that a lot of European companies are waiting when is it the right time to go to the US. Oh, I'm too small. I'm waiting until I get bigger. Now I don't have enough money to do it. You actually, if you have a product already and you merely tested the market, that you actually have some revenue or have some client success, even if it's just minimal, you're ready. You're ready to start the preparation where you actually pull the trigger and gonna start having incoming funds. That's a secondary question, but getting ready for it to create the vehicle of it, a legal entity in the US, a licensing agreement between your own entities, and start a crowdfunding or regulated crowdfunding campaign is especially good if there's an overlap between your markets. So who are you promoting your product to as a potential buyer, a potential interest, is also maybe thinking of investing to you with a little bit of investment. We call it micro equity for equity. And then that's you're doubling down on it. So just to clarify, there's nothing to do with the campaigns where you're like in Kickstarter. Most people think that, okay, I'm going to raise money to make a product. This is different. You already have a product and you're giving equity for money, but instead of going around and dancing around investors, you're basically asking the public, do you have $500 or $1,000 or a couple of $100 so I could give you a micro equity, and you fundraise from 10,000 people, basically giving you the $1 million instead of one or two investor, which, by the way, gives you a lot more control because they're not gonna want to control your company. And second of all, there's not going to be pushback. You basically put it out there. You're creating marketing, and then again, your brand awareness is growing at the same time. So it's going to be easier to do this sales marketing combination. And that's what we do at Raise2Launch. We do this intervened with the people part. I do the people part, looking at the hiring plan, roadmap, how your company will look like in 5 years. Trevor, you do the marketing side. I'll let you talk about that. And we have a third person, Kim, who's doing the financial side. So you actually have a proper plan to do fundraising for, where the valuation is very much dialed in, and you're not losing money, or you're not losing too much equity, and you're not losing, I would say, a lot of energy debating with an investor. The only thing why maybe some people...
Oh no, Tomas.
Oh, again?
Oh no, your internet dropped again.
Oh.
Dude, this is a cursed day for it. I will fill some more time while we wrap this stuff. So I do think... Oh wait, there we go.
Okay,
You're
good.
back. That was a brief
had a lag. I was like, I didn't do anything. So then the last sentence, which maybe I should, and you're right, maybe today is not our day to do this stream, but the moment we talk about money, look at what happens with the internet. It started to freeze up.
There you go.
People maybe want to hear this. So the only thing I wanted to mention, that people not understanding regulated crowdfunding is a big deal, because market has changed so much. Literally during COVID, there wasn't any before COVID any too much alternative to do regulated crowdfunding. This is a new market, and now there's many new ways to do it. It initially was only for 1 year. Now this is open-ended. So the moment it's open-ended, you don't have to think when is it a good time to start this. It's basically, you need to start the vehicle as soon as you have a little bit of money to get prepared. And when you launch the actual fundraising campaign, you're gonna pick the time, but you just need a marketing budget to start. And some people call this smart money. Just money come to you. Why not let the planet, the people, give you the money so that you can be successful? If your startup is really helping to solve a problem for a city, for humanity, for people, and so on, just trust that people will recognize that and they will give you the money. So not being in your bubble where you think that, oh, I need to individually find my investors. Just put it out there, and if it's a good idea, people will actually give money to this journey and this venture, because they want it to happen. So that's what I'm actually very excited about, because I've been working with startups and I was listening to all the problems that founders were complaining about their investor. Now I have to do this. Now my business direction is different. And there was a lot of problems in especially when you try to exit your startup, all came from the wrong investor came in the first time. Too much control was given up. So what I'm trying to say here with the regulated crowdfunding, you stay in control. It's smart money, but most people don't know about this. There's too many platforms already. It's already too noisy. We have to do our own research for every client to make sure we choose the right platform where we're gonna do this regulated crowdfunding. So there's a lot of money out there. Just need to know where to look, how to have the right strategy in place, and that's what we are helping with. And that's why I'm excited about this, because finally a startup owner can actually finish their journey and really become a commonly used product, or a commonly used technology, or a commonly used solution, instead of always depending on a VC money and dance around an investor and try to do the. So that's why I'm excited about this. So there was a long answer, but that's what we do, and maybe handing it back to you on the marketing side, because some people say it's a little bit more marketing intensive, but again, the marketing part of it goes back to your brand. So you double down on marketing if you do a regulated crowdfunding.
Yeah. So I agree. A local expert in your market, right, not only helps with the business side of things, like setting up your entities and all those things, but if you want to get into, like we already mentioned, right, Reg C crowdfunding, which is legal here in the States, uh, being visible, being known, having success, showing traction will really help you raise that round. Now, before your internet goes down the crapper again, Tomas, I think we'll wrap this one up a little early today.
Okay.
I do think it's worth discussing, right? We're going to be over the next couple of weeks going more into depth about both VC, raising with funds, finding a local partner, getting Reg C. We'll go more into depth into our experiences with these, and also other problems as well. But we do have a full slate. Like I was mentioning, we just did episode 4. Tomas and I have written out kind of our key talking points for the next 6 episodes, so we know what we're talking about. I think what we're trying to do is really make it obvious, if you've got a startup with some traction, some revenue, a product that has some utility, and you want to roll it out in a new market, you want to figure out, how do I raise a round so I can launch this thing big? We've got good people to talk to right here on the call. Reach out, let Tomas at Raise2Launch, let him know. You can drop me an email, find me at crowdtamers.com, find Tomas at Raise2Launch.com, and we're happy to just have a chat, see if we can help you figure out what your next step should be. In the meantime, as always, Tomas, thank you very much. Sorry your internet was a bit of a trash fire today. Hopefully in 2 weeks' time, things will be a little bit more stable.
Hope so too. Thank you very much for the patience, and I appreciate it. Have a good, productive week,